Pragmata is an upcoming game releasing in April across every current gen console platform. Following the recent Nintendo Direct Partner Showcase, a free demo was made available on Switch 2 and PS5 and Xbox Series X. As a big AAA multi-platform release, it becomes a perfect title to showcase how Switch 2 will hold up against the more powerful systems from Sony and Microsoft. I have played through the demo on all three platforms to get a judgment on how it looks and performs, so let's take a look. Straight away, the standard PS5 and Xbox Series X are identical in graphics quality. Both run at an upscaled 2160p, most likely being upscaled from around 1080p in performance mode and possibly a little higher in quality mode. Putting the two side by side, and you can see that the differences are minimal, which is to be expected as they are quite similar systems. Nintendo Switch 2 is the more important one here. As the weakest of the three due to it being a handheld system, there has to be some sacrifices. Instantly, you can notice a cut to resolution, with docked mode giving an upscaled 1080p, with a likely base resolution of around 540p. This is obvious to see with sharp edges appearing quite jagged, and materials like hair having various ghosting artifacts, which make it look worse than the other two consoles. Even with this cut in resolution, other visual features still hold up quite well on Switch 2 from a usual viewing distance. The game has much of the same core visual makeup as the more powerful hardware, with the most noticeable differences being in reflections and shadows. Overall though, Switch 2 compares very well in this department. Performance is the next difference to look at. I will note that I did try to get a frame rate counter and graph on the screen, but the software's not been playing nicely with me, so we'll have to go with how it feels to play. Interestingly, both quality and performance modes on Xbox Series X and PS5 target an upscaled 4K at 60 FPS. Instead of making a sacrifice on frame rate to enhance the visual features, quality mode simply enables a dynamic resolution to keep at 60 FPS. This would largely go unnoticed however due to the use of the upscaling technology. The only difference I could really see between the two modes in the demo was in shadows, and even that was minor. Switch 2 is able to keep up in performance as it does also target 60 FPS in both docked and handheld mode. This is really nice to see, especially on a game with some fast-paced combat elements. Comparing Switch 2 and PS5, you can definitely see and feel a few more drops on the Switch, which would be expected with the hardware difference. A lot of the time, Switch 2 can hit the 60 FPS target, but if combat gets heavy or there's a lot of visual effects on the screen, you can expect it to become quite unstable. This instability was also noticed when walking around into larger areas. This is potentially due to the slower read speeds on Switch 2 compared to PS5, and the performance drops are due to the game having to load in new assets. These performance drops become much less noticeable in handheld mode, where the system's VRR-enabled screen can adjust the refresh rate in real time to hide the sudden jitters from the frame drops. This is another case where having VRR support through docked mode would be really nice to have, but sadly Nintendo still doesn't support this on the Switch 2. Perhaps an option in the final game for a 30 FPS limit could be useful for some players who would rather keep the performance consistent. This could be done by having a performance and quality mode, like the PS5 and Xbox do. There isn't too much here in the demo, but it gives us this good look at how new releases perform on different hardware, and the Switch 2 has very much shown it is capable of keeping up with new releases, but will still have sacrifices and technical issues that just isn't there on more powerful systems. Of course, the trade-off there is in portability, as you can take the Switch 2 version on the go for an excellent experience with this game. But if handheld gaming isn't really your thing, then if you have the choice, it will still be to play multi-platform releases on PS5 or Xbox Series X unless you specifically want to have it on Switch 2 for any other reason. That still shouldn't take away from the excellent job so far on bringing this game to Nintendo Switch 2, and the demo was still a great time on the system, and held up visually in every department other than the resolution. Outside of the technical details, I did really enjoy my time playing the demo, and I would be interested in playing the full game when it comes out. And who knows, maybe we can even see more differences between Switch 2 and PS5 in the full game.